Today's video starts with a little bit of an unk moment. I'm going to take you back to 2001, System of a Down. The album is Toxicity. And there's a lyric in one of the songs, and it goes, "All research and successful policy shows that treatment should be increased and law enforcement decreased while abolishing mandatory minimum sentences." We knew back in 2001 that the 6-month jail is terrible. It doesn't help anything. And yet here we are, once again, our next standard character, Cherish, is being put in the 6-month standard banner jail. And it kind of brings up a question then of, should you pull Cherish? Should you pull him here tomorrow or today? Actually today. And I want to give you all the details on him. I want to tell you if I think he's worth it, or more specifically, who he is worth it for. So let's dive into the game here. Here's our boy. He looks good. Listen, I love his design. So first and foremost, as always, if you like the character, pull the darn character, okay? This game does not need you to focus only on meta. He's beautiful. He's got a cool persona. I like his graphics. Pull him if you want him. But if you are strapped for resources and you're on the fence as to whether or not he is worth it for your team, let's talk about what he does. First and foremost, he is a Guardian and he's Ice type. And so his whole kit revolves around his ability to keep you safe. And his powers are all built around shielding. All right, so I pulled together a fight here just so you can see Cherish in action. This is not a great team for him necessarily. This is also not a fight that is, tearing around ice or anything like that. But I want you to get an idea of what he looks like so that we could talk about him as we go. And really, and these will be in a different language, but really you are going to be alternating between his skill 2 and his skill 3. And this is all about giving survivability to your team. So skill 3, you're going to see it here. I'm going to select and I'm going to put it onto Yusuke. So what this is going to do is give us a nice fat shield, and it's going to give everyone a down counter. So that way, if they get hit with something that they are weak to, it doesn't instantly knock them down. Toss this on here really quick, and you can just see how incredible that first shield is. Keep in mind that I probably don't have great cards on my team here. I didn't really focus on that in the other version. And so this is even without being like super, amazingly built or anything like that. And the other thing that power gives you is bonus damage. So it's based off of and scales off of your defense. So he's another defense character like Fox. So you're getting a big shield, you're getting an extra down point, and you're getting a damage bonus for your characters. And now we see his second skill. So you can see the third one's on a cooldown. And what this one does is it gives another shield to the unit that you select, but it's also going to make it so that they're more likely to be targeted. So you can stack this with like a Soy, you can throw it on Yusuke obviously because you want him to get hit and to counter. And this is one of the reasons why he pairs so well with Yusuke, because he's giving shields, he's giving more defense, and he's going to make him more likely to be targeted throughout that part of the battle until you obviously need to refresh this every couple turns or whatever. And so he's kind of like making Yusuke damn near unkillable while still giving just the fattest shields known to man to your team. He is definitely going to keep you alive. It's one of those, if you need survivability, he is absolutely going to give it to you. And just for the heck of it, while we're talking, I'll go ahead and like cycle around back to him and I'll show you his other skills just so you see them. But understand that you're probably not actually going to use his skill 1. And his highlight, a lot of the times you're just going to be using someone else's. Now, maybe in some rotations you end up using his, but it's kind of like your Summer, Tomoko's, etc., where it's not that they're bad highlights, you just have more impactful ones for your team. His in particular will give extra shield and it decreases how much damage you take, but you're already survivable enough, frankly. So it's not something that you super need. And here we go, I'll show you his skills. So who is he for? Well, he's really going to be best in your Yusuke teams. So he is going to do all the things that you need for Yusuke to be great on his own, and he's going to make him more likely to be targeted. Does that mean that he is bad in other teams? Absolutely not. A place that I think he gets a lot of good use is in Astrolab, which we will get at a later point in time, of course. And Astrolab just calls for so many different types of teams, different elements, different types. It may ask for a Guardian. It may ask for, different various types of teams, and he's going to fill those slots. You may also be saving things like your Minamis for specific battles, which gives you another sustain, another guardian to use in other stages. So he definitely has his place. And even in general content, think about like Metro Desire or running through Mementos and Palaces, he's a good slot in to just put in there and make your life easier. And if you're like me and you like running your Yusuke team through auto content battles, having his kind of best in slot hand in hand with them is absolutely not a bad thing to do. I would actually particularly recommend it. So if you like the character or you have a Fox team and you want to make the Fox team stronger, that's really your first reason to pull him, because he is absolutely going to do all of those things. Now, they did give buffs, and I think it's important that we talk about those buffs because they do change his kit a little bit here. Let me pull these up for you. And I'm on Najox's Twitter, so do make sure to give him a follow. But what they gave him is, first of all, in his skill 1, and again, you don't really use it, but they upped it from 1% to 2%. Whatever, just ignore it. You don't really can use it. Skill 3, this is the big shit at the end, increased damage dealt by 1%. They moved it up to 2.9% for every 300 points of his defense. So you're getting a little bit of a damage buff. In his talents, for the first one, when allies have a shield granted, increase ailment resistance by 48%. That's pretty decent. And the last one, while he's not KO'd, which is going to be always, when an ally uses their ailment resistance to avoid a curse, elemental, or spiritual ailment, so it's a very specific condition, grant 1, 2, or 3 buff stacks respectively. For each stack, increase targeted allies' damage by 10% for 2 turns, stacks up to 3 times, and 3 stacks also increases critical damage by 20%. So right off the bat, that's actually a pretty cool effect. It is a little conditional, but we do have enough things kind of throwing these different ailment types at you that I think you are going to be able to trigger it, but it's not as simple as just press a button and all of a sudden you get it. But when it goes off, it is going to give you some more damage. And then in the awarenesses, they up awareness 1 to 20% on the pierce rate from 15, which puts it on par with Minami. And then for awareness 2, and this is pretty cool, increase damage dealt by 15% and critical damage by 10% for every knight's protection shield, one of his stacking buffs. So these are particularly nice. And if he wasn't in standard banner jail, this would be amazing because you could just, hopefully randomly pick that up by finally using our standard tickets. However, by the time he actually makes it to the standard banner, there's so many better characters that come out in terms of buffing your units that you really aren't going to probably use him that much outside of your Fox team anyways, or in Astrolab. And so where these could have been super fun to have now, his jail kind of screws him over in this department. And I will say that, again, unless he's just a favorite character of yours, I don't think he's worth chasing these awarenesses for on a limited banner. We have a lot of great units coming up in the very, very near future. So I would recommend not dumping, unless you're a whale, all of your hard-earned resources on this particular character. That said, should you pull a single copy of him? Well, I think in a couple of very specific fringe cases you should. First of all, if you don't have Minami and you don't have Summer Tomoko, this is our last Guardian unit for a incredibly long time. So he does have a place if you don't have the others. Now, if you have a Minami, in particular an A1 Minami, then not so much. I don't necessarily think that he is needed when you have her. She is just doing things as a heal, and he's doing things kind of proactively as a, defensive shielding mechanism. But if you don't have a better sustainer, I will say that he's better than Lufel. He's better than Morgana in all the situations that I think really matter. And so if you don't have someone and you don't want to wait for Minami to hit the standard banner, maybe pull for him. Now, if you want to take a little bit of a gamble, there's every bit of a chance that there'll be a super rerun banner somewhere around the holidays, Christmas in particular. And so we could see the return of Minami. We could see the return of a Summer Tomoko around that time frame. We don't know for sure, but it is something to consider. So I don't think it's necessarily that this is your last chance to get a sustainer, but if you don't have someone else, especially with his buffs, I don't think he's a bad play. Also, I think that if you are in like a top performing guild, especially with those buffs, he may make your Fox runs far more competitive. Just with those extra incentives on his, crit damage, etc., it does add a little bit more to him. And I think if you want to keep pushing your Fox teams when we have that in the guild rotation, I think that he will increase those scores, and I think it'll be noticeable. So if you're a top tier guild, I think he is worth it there. For everyone else who doesn't love their Fox team or doesn't need to build into their Fox team, isn't running super high guild scores, or doesn't just love the character or need a sustain, I think he's skippable. I think he's completely skippable. And I say that because we're not that far off from Minami coming around. And again, I think we might have some super rerun banners in the not too distant future. And at the end of the day, he really does kind of get relegated down to mostly just your Fox teams. It's not to say you can't use him in other teams. He's certainly able to be put into other units. But when you start looking at how do we pump up damage later, it's not usually that we need more sustainability. It's usually that we want to really, push the boundaries of damage. How do we get this person hit for 1 million, 2 million? And just having a fatter shield is not the answer to that. It's usually some very specific gimmicks and overlaps and very specific buffs that you put between wonders, personas, and other units within your team. So I do think that he's kind of unnecessary. I hate to say it that way. And something else I want you to be aware of is we have a lot of good units coming up in the not too distant future. First of all, we have Haru. She's going to be coming out December 6th. So she's not that far off. And she, to me, is significantly more impactful than Cherish ever will be. You then have Mont Figure Skater. I don't think, unless they buff her significantly, that she's going to be holistically needed. I'm going to pull her because I just love her animations. I'm just kind of showing them off here just for the sake of it. And I want her, but she's not one you have to pull for. But then you start getting into like the Wind Vast, you get into other, 3.0 units that are going to be very, very good. And if you use all of your resources on Cherish, you may find yourself in a position where, you really wanted to pull a Violet or a Wind Vast or a Howler. And now that we know they're doing the 6-month jail still, I would much rather pull Howler or Turbo when they come out in the next, series of 3.0 patches than Cherish. So I think that if you need to save resources, he really is your skip. He is the one that you need to sit back on and say, you know what, unless I am just in love with my Yusuke team, I don't need him. It's sad because I think he's a cool character. He definitely, just look at these shields. I'm not even trying to be optimal and I can't take damage. Like, he is definitely a top tier sustainer. And I always said if he would have came at the beginning of the game, he would have been a meta unit for a very long time. As far as if you do get him, should you get his weapon? It's the same problem with the standards, is we're not going to be able to do an off, pull where you're looking for someone else's weapon, you put him in the consolation prizes. If you're chasing him down, I could see the argument for going for his weapon, but again, you're fighting for limited resources. His weapon, his 5-star, basically it increases defense for him. The shield from upright mark is increased by 30%, and each stack of upright mark would increase the ally's damage dealt by 8% up to 2 stacks, so you're basically getting a 16% damage up. Against his 4-star increases his shielding effects. So it makes people a little bit more survivable. Both will help people survive. He doesn't need help in that department. And so really it's an argument of, if you're investing in him, do you want to get a little bit of extra damage dealt? I don't think that's holistically necessary. Is it nice? Of course, every time you get a damage buff, it's nice, but you're really committing resources at that point in time. Again, if you're chasing scores, then of course you're going to take the buffs that you can get. So recapping, do you need a sustainer? Did you miss Minami? Did you miss Summer Moko? If yes, he's your next best bet. Do you love your Fox team, and or are you pushing scores? Those are the reasons to get him. Saving for better units later is a reason not to get him. And honestly, you're probably not going to get as much use as you might think. So that's my other reason not to get him. Friends, 10,000 subs is right around the corner for me. I need your help, please. Sub, like the video, help me get there. I'm trying to get there by Christmas. And until our next video or live stream, please take care of yourselves.